I want to call this November Rules Committee meeting to order. Councilman Austin, would you give the invocation, please?
Lord, we are always honored to be able to come together and serve in this place together. And we ask that you lead us, you guide us, you direct us in all that we do. You help us to be worthy of the trust that's been given to us as we serve the Cherokee Nation and the great people of the Cherokee Nation. In all we do, we praise you. Amen.
Amen. Shelley, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Joe Deere. Keith Austin. Here. Danny Callison. Here. Julia Coates. Here. Sean Crittenden. Here. Mike Dobbins. Here. Rex Jordan. Johnny Kidwell. Here. Darrell Legg. Here. Wes Nofire. Dora Petskowski. Here. Joshua Sam. Here. Melvina Shotpouch. E.O. Smith. Here. Cadessa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
Okay, if you've had a chance to look at the minutes, could I get a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, reports from the Marshal Service. Is Shannon Beal here? Haven't seen him. Is he here? Okay, let's go to the Office of the Attorney General, Sarah Hill. I know Sarah's here. Hey, Sarah, turn your mic on, please. All right.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I couldn't hear you.
I don't really have a long report today. I was going to talk a little bit about Brackeen. So we had oral argument. The court had oral argument on the Brackeen case. The U.S. Supreme Court did. The oral argument went on for 3 hours. It was riveting to me. I don't know if any of you listened. I would not be surprised if it was not as riveting to anyone else as it was to me. But it was very interesting. I thought that Justice Gorsuch sort of showed the same command and knowledge of the topic that he always has. This was the first time I had really heard Justice Jackson Brown weigh in, and she did an extremely capable job too, seemed to really understand the Indian country issues involved. So our counsel, Ian Gershengorn from Jenner & Block, I thought absolutely could not have done a better job. I have nothing but high praise for his oral argument. So I feel like we did everything that we could possibly do in that case. We've made the best arguments that we could make, and it has been submitted to the court. They will do what they will do with it now. There was, of course, a lot of people asking questions about the Indian Child Welfare Act, and they didn't seem to have a good grasp of some of the issues that we know face Indian country. One of the questions that came up over and over again, which was frustrating to me, was questions about the third requirement of ICWA. Of course, the first placement preference is members of the child's family. The second placement preference is members of the child's tribe. And the third placement preference is members of other federally recognized tribes. There are a lot of our citizens who are also Choctaw or also Muskogee, members of this council, also Muskogee. And you might have children who, if for some reason a member of the Cherokee Nation, they might be a member of the Cherokee Nation, but if their own tribe could not take care of them, it would be eminently reasonable to ask a tribe which they also share ties to raise them, or tribes that they have cultural ties to raise them. And eventually, when Ian got a chance to take the stage, he was able to put that information in front of the court. But it seemed like there was a lot of wandering in the dark about that question, and it was something that's a little frustrating to me, because I think any one of you could have answered that question to that court concisely and explained why that makes sense as a placement preference. So I am cautiously optimistic, because that's how I have to operate in any country, is we put the best arguments that we can forward, and then we will see what the court does. It was an extraordinarily complex case procedurally. The decision of the lower court was very complicated. The court has a lot of different options for how they can handle that case. So it's difficult to predict what the outcome might be. It's always, tea leaf reading is of limited use anyway. They'll do what they're going to do. We'll have to just wait and see. But I was pleased with how we presented the argument, how our counsel the counsel for the tribes. He was not just our counsel, but counsel for all the tribes involved in that case, how he presented the case. He did an absolutely outstanding job. So if you have any other questions that you haven't had a chance to ask me over the last month, I'll be happy to answer them if I can.
Anybody have any questions for Sarah? Julia?
Hi, Sarah. I've got a couple of questions about Brackeen, but also about Castro Huerta. And they're kind of like asking you to, speculate a little bit, although I don't say speculate, but just, give some hypotheticals maybe. And I don't know, on the media, it seems a little iffy about Brackeen, and I just wondered if you could maybe give us some idea that if ICWA is not upheld, about what kinds of things could be taking place. I mean, are we going to be sent back to the conditions as they were previous to the 1970s where, just large numbers of our children are being adopted out and fostered out to non-Indian families? I think there are some states, California being one of them, that's kind of got ICWA codified or something similar in state law. Does that exist in Oklahoma? Does it exist in other places? I mean, what could we be looking at if this law is struck down by the court?
Well, this is where the complexity makes it difficult to give you, while you're struggling giving straight answers anyway, the complexity of this case makes it even harder, but I will give you the best answer that I can, Councilwoman. We do have an Oklahoma Indian Child Welfare Act, so we have OICWA, so we do have state requirements which are helpful. They are stronger than the federal requirements already were. So Oklahoma has a particularly good law because it was drafted by tribal advocates in Oklahoma. So we have the benefit of that in Oklahoma, but of course Cherokees are not just in Oklahoma. California has I think they also have a state ICWA, but not all states do. Most states do not. So it definitely, if the whole act is struck, it could definitely become problematic. If the whole act were struck, it depends on why it was struck. If it was struck for constitutional reasons, then the state court laws themselves might be in some kind of peril, depending on how it was struck and under what circumstances. If they go to some of the more procedural, there are lots of different mechanisms that they could use here. They could say, well, the federal government is imposing too many requirements on the state, so we're just going to strike down these few provisions of ICWA, but we're going to leave most of it intact. It just really depends on what kind of coalition that they're able to draw, and I don't know if we'll end up with the Castro Huerta majority again with Justice Kavanaugh or one of his compatriots writing for the court, or whether Justice Gorsuch can pull together a majority and then write something. It is very difficult to say. And even if there is a case, even if the case is not a complete and outright win for the tribes, if it's a very limited loss, it may be something that we can definitely live with. If it is the worst case scenario, I can't say that we wouldn't go back to a situation where we are not dealing with many of the same issues we were dealing with, the year I was born. It's impossible for me to answer that because I just don't know. There are so many different legal issues that were brought before the court on so many different bases that it's hard to know how they might decide it. They have lots of options in front of them, though, and it's hard for me to understand why the court, especially since ICWA has been challenged and upheld consistently over the last 40 years. There's a long record of it being upheld. Not just ICWA, but all of the other cases in federal Indian law that support ICWA that go back to the same fundamental issues over and over again. There's lots of reasons for them to leave that alone. There's no reason for them to go and drag that out. If they have a particular issue with the act, they can fix it in a much more surgical way if they want to. And hopefully we gave them lots of reasons and arguments for why they should, A, not do that at all, but instead let us win, and B, if they cannot find it in their hearts to do that, at least keep the damage minimal.
Well, I think you've given an excellent answer. I knew that just hypotheticals were not going to be possible, but maybe parameters of what could happen here. And so I think I do understand or have a better sense of what might be going down here and how things might shake out potentially. On the Castro Huerta case, I know that in the Kavanaugh decision there were some some threats to just really the fundamentals along the lines of the Cherokee Nation, the Cherokee cases, around Worcester in particular. Are we seeing any indications that anti-sovereignty movements around the country are, taking that and running with it to any extent, or is it sort of sitting quiet for now?
It will not sit quiet. There's no way. There's going to be definitely be, I am 100% sure that the day after that case was decided, that the next case was being planned for how to bring that case, how to bring those issues back up before the court, finding a more difficult set of circumstances so that they can broaden and strengthen the victory that they feel they got in Castro Huerta. So it is still very much an active threat to tribal sovereignty that has to be thoughtfully and carefully managed by those of us in Indian country who find ourselves on the front lines of this issue. I'm very concerned.
I'm very concerned too about both of them. But I just wanted to let you know that on the basis of information that you provided to us last week or last month, that I gave an assignment to some of my students, and I actually had students who were getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning, California time, to listen to the live arguments of the court. And I heard from a couple of them that they were really intrigued by them. So I think this caught not only your attention, but for a lot of us, yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, this is the biggest stakes that we have in Indian country, and this is the way it always is in Indian country. I mean, it's never going to be easy. It's always going to be this level of, push and pull. It's just how it is in Indian country. We'll just do what we always do.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Deere.
Hey, Sarah, we talked about the Burkine, what sort of going off with Councilor Coates was talking about with the three cases, the Castro Huerta, the Burkine, and the McGirt. It seems like each one of these is a piece going towards sovereignty. So the question is, if we do have a negative, we know where it's going to go. They're just going to use that and keep using it as a tool. But what do you think about Judge Roberts and how he's going to decide? Do you think he can pull it together?
Chief Justice Roberts?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been pretty consistently on the anti-tribal side on these cases. So, I think we're really, the real question is I don't know. I can't, the court, what happens at the Supreme Court is, it's rarefied air. I don't breathe that air. I don't know what goes on up there. I can see, because everyone can see, that we've got Justice Gorsuch, who has this really deep and principled view of what Indian country, what federal Indian law is. He really gets it. There are other people on the court who get it too, but Justice Gorsuch is a conservative justice. And he is able, and our hope, I think Indian country's collective hope, is that he is able to get through to one of the other conservative justices and say, this is not, and Indian country is never a conservative or a liberal idea or agenda. This is about reading the law for what it is and what it says. And that's all Justice Gorsuch did in McGirt. It is the most conservative opinion you will read. It looks only at the law and interprets the law, and it is very clear what the answer is supposed to be. And I think if he is able to persuade some of the other justices who are still fairly new at this, right, that there is a possibility that the court can grow and its jurisprudence in Indian law can grow and get more favorable to tribes as time goes on. Will he be able to persuade people like Alito and Kavanaugh? I do not know. Whether he will be able to persuade someone like Chief Justice Roberts, I do not know. But we will. I think that's what we have to hope for.
Yeah, it just seems, because we talked about this in California, and with those three, they're all towards the tribe. It seems like it's another form of whitewashing and doing things like that. So that's where I'm looking at the different what's next, because if it's not these three cases, what's the next one going to be? So I was glad to have that talk with you, and glad you got to talk, and that was really good. So that was sort of my question, yes and no. So, but thanks, Sarah, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sherry.
And it seems like, we're getting sued again by the governor, and he's spouting off about Huerta in the new lawsuit. So, and I know you don't comment on pending litigation as much, but, I think that's opened the door a bit to be attacked, our sovereignty to be attacked again. Obviously, we're getting attacked again by the governor, but I appreciate the work you do. I know it's difficult, and it seems like, we try to be proactive, but a lot of times we're reactive too, because you never know what somebody's going to come up with. And thanks for defending us, and it's a tough job. Thank you.
It's my honor to be able to do it.
Candace.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Attorney General Hill. I would also like to echo the words of Speaker Shambaugh and, express my deep appreciation for the work that you do as not only a defender, but also as an advocate for tribal sovereignty. So when we're looking at this Brackeen case, is it pretty likely that we will not see a decision handed down until next year?
Yes, it'll probably be in the spring, I think, when we'll have a decision in this case.
Okay. So we're gonna be waiting for some time on pins and needles.
Well, that's been the story of my life since I became Attorney General, is either preparing for an argument that I'm worried about or waiting for a decision that I'm worried about. Just a never-ending circle of that.
So one of the key, I think, issues that we're looking at with the Brackeen case is that it appears there's a general lack of understanding about Cherokee Nation as a political sovereign and about Indian nations as a political sovereign. Would you concur with that, or am I off base there?
No, I think that was obvious in the oral argument that was the case, that there is, I don't know if there's confusion. There's a desire to confuse people about what it means to be a citizen of a tribe. There's a desire on behalf of some people to make this about race when it's about political affiliation. And so it's fighting this sort of, there are institutions like the ones we're facing in Brackeen, where this is part of their, is trying to turn something into an issue about racial classification when the law has been clear for many years that it's about the political classification. So I think you're right. There continues to be a lot of confusion about that, and that confusion is amplified by folks who have an interest in seeing it amplified.
Right. Recently, I have seen some conjecture about whether or not the Brackeens actually have standing in this case, because they actually did adopt both children that were potentially at issue. Is there any potential that may impact some of the thinking around the case?
I believe it was Justice Gorsuch who himself brought that up, that part of the reason, and it was hit on several times during oral argument, that part of the reasons why this case is kind of a mess is because there's not a real controversy between the parties. The controversy has been laid to rest a long time ago in this case. And so courts do not excel at giving advisory opinions about all the things that people want to know about. They excel at deciding cases based on the facts in front of them. And so they get on these sort of wild, coming up with all these different, well, what if this scenario happened? What if that scenario happened? Because there is not a particular scenario to discuss in that case. So will it persuade the judges to take some action? Now, that I do not know, but that issue was definitely raised in oral argument, and multiple people noted that was a potential problem here.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. I understand, another member of this body asked about, the potential ramifications, but there are so many issues at play here. It's so difficult to predict, and I really appreciate you speaking to that complexity, those nuances, and to the extremely broad potential of what can occur with this decision. So thank you for being here with us today, and for all the work that you and all of the staff in your office do on our behalf.
Well, I have to specifically mention Chrissy Rostimo, who's been the tip of the spear. Is that Todd's famous phrase that he likes to use? Tip of the spear on that deal. She worked extremely hard on this case, and she went to Washington for oral arguments, and she's been working on cases involving ICWA her entire career with passion I have rarely seen matched by anyone in any area. And the nation is well served by her efforts here, and I'm very grateful for her.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much, and thank you for the time, Speaker.
Anybody else? Sarah, keep up the fight, and the council, as you know, you have our support.
Yes, sir. I
All right.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Yes, ma'am. Be careful in the snow.
Yes, sir.
FOIA GRA, Gwen Terrapin. Hey, Gwen.
Hello. It's good to see all of you on this snowy afternoon. I apologize for my absence at the last rules meeting. On my FOIA report, we have 25 total requests at this time. 5 of those are outstanding, and everything's been updated, and you all should have a copy of that report. And if you'll indulge me for about 5 more minutes, I would like to give you all an update on how our Cherokee citizens did at the INFR this year, if that's okay with you,
Sure,
Mr.
go ahead.
Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
The qualifiers, myself, and other Cherokee citizens were also working at the INFR. I wasn't. I was not there, but they were working there, and they greatly appreciate the monetary sponsorships and the Cherokee Nation patches that they were given, because they proudly wore those on their vests and also on their shirts. So everyone knew that they were part of Cherokee Nation. Everything was provided by Chief Hoskins, CNB, our tribal council, and our delegate to Congress, Kim Teehee. She provided some gift cards to all of our qualifiers. We ended up having 21 that actually qualified. So that was awesome. We were very well represented there. And our Cherokee Nation flag was also carried during each performance in the Parade of Nations. And they were very proud to do that. It was always a Cherokee citizen that was carrying that flag. In the junior and senior rounds, their performances were always during the day, starting on Tuesday. We had 3 Cherokee citizens that were in the top 5 finishers. In round 2, we didn't have any. And in the junior-senior championship round, we've had 4 Cherokee citizens that were in the top 6 finishers. 2 were juniors and 2 were seniors. And as the world champions in the junior and seniors, we had 4 citizens that placed in the top 10. Junior barrels, Journey Roper was 2nd place. She's from Oktaha. Kira Teehee, she was 3rd place, and she's my niece. And she's from Oktaha also. And in the senior team roping, we had Robbie Inman, who is also our Hall of Fame inductee, and Ralph Williams. And then in our regular performances, in round 1, we had 4 Cherokee citizens in the top 6 finishers, 8 in round 2 in the top 6, 5 in round 3 in the top 6, and 4 in round 4 in the top 6. And our world champions, we had 6 Cherokee citizens that finished in the top 8. Jackson Clegg from Coweta is the world champion for the tie-down. Rush Hodges from Coweta is the reserve champion for tie-down. Jaco Roper is from Oktaha, and he was the reserve champion in bareback. Quentin Inman is from Ketchum, and he was 4th in steer wrestling and tie-down. Sally Williams from Skytook placed 5th in barrel racing, and Cannon Cravens from Tahlequah is a reserve champion for the bull riding. So we are very proud of them, and we look forward to next year. And like I said, they appreciate all of the support that everyone has given them.
Well, that's pretty impressive to, have our Cherokee citizens show such good representation.
Yes.
It's an honor for them, and it's also an honor for our nation. That's awesome.
It is, and we had not only, these were just the ones that were the top finishers. We had a lot more that actually performed, and they all did very well in different rounds, and we're very proud of them.
That's great. Does anybody have any questions for Gwen? All right, Gwen, good report.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next from the Tax Commission, Sharon Swepston.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Sharon.
I believe you have my report. I'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anybody have any questions for Sharon? All right, Sharon, good report. Thank you.
Thank you.
From the Gaming Commission, Janice Purcell. Janice, yes, she's here.
Good afternoon. I submitted my report, and our next gaming commission meeting is this Friday at Catoosa, and everyone's welcome.
Does anybody have any questions for Janice? All right, Janice, be careful going home.
Thank you.
Human Resources, Samantha Hendricks.
Hi there,
Hey,
everyone.
Samantha.
You have my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions related to the reports.
Does anybody have any questions for Samantha? All right.
Okay, thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Oh, wait.
I got one. I had a person come to me the other day that's an RN. She said she had 18 years' experience. Do we always give them, when we hire somebody, and I don't know if this can be talked about or not, but do we always give them what they're supposed to get, or, you know, like with 18 years' experience, or do we try to hire them in as cheap as we can and go?
No, gosh, no. We try to, we don't hire
I don't know if you can answer that or not, but
We don't,
I'm
we
pretty
look,
blunt, so, I mean, this was kind of the way she hit me with it, so.
sure. And if you have her number, I'll be happy to talk to her. But we look at all the qualifications. Of course, we have a Cherokee preference that we follow.
Right.
And then we look at also their qualifications and experience and grade them as far as, I say grade, we look at that to actually determine where their wage would actually be.
And is
So-
a 4-month waiting period on getting somebody filled?
You know, I've been working very hard at that since I've been here. So,
okay.
And it's, it has been a long waiting period in the past, and we've certainly have decreased that quite a bit. So, we're working very diligent to get that taken care of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, if you would, see what they've cut it down to. I mean, I'd be interested to see how, because we've had this discussion, and I know you're working on it, but it'd be interesting to see how much quicker it is, the process.
Like I know the last time I looked at it, of course, as you know, when we're getting questions, I keep that close to the vest as far as trying to understand that. So I know it's from last year, I know we've come down 50, 60% on time. We still have a ways to go, obviously, but, you know, we're still working at trying to cut that time down from the time of offer till the time they actually start.
Well, if you're making progress, that's what we need to.
Yeah, we're making a lot of great progress. I tell you, the team has been real champs. You know, I've come in and I've actually changed a lot of things, and that they have been excellent to work with, and I couldn't have asked for a better team. So they've been really working hard at trying to meet those demands. I know it's slow, and I apologize for that, but when you've done it for such a long time the same way, that change takes a little bit more time.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, thank you for your
Okay.
report. You have a good evening.
thank you. Guys, be careful going home.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Old business, none pending, new business, none pending. For the first time ever, I've been told, we do not have one item in rules, which is incredible. So with that being said, are there any announcements? Okay, the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, December 12th at 11 a.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Motion and second. All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.